What a bullet! Scott Arfield! He's been threatening that recently, and all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. It's Rory now. On the outside, decent.
Barnes! He got it! Ashley Barnes with it! What a cross from Rory! And there was Ashley Barnes! And Burnley leading the derby.
Knocks it quickly, finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell, saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
On by Paul Teller, on for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day.
And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby. Here's Benson. Can he go on the outside? Comes inside. He's had a shot.
Oh, what a goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class. Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarets deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of the Turfcast podcast, full-time show where we are discussing yesterday's humbling against Tottenham Hotspur, where Burnley were, for want of a better phrase, dicked at Turf Moor by admittedly a good Tottenham side, but a lot of work to do for Burnley, especially at the back. As you can see, we've got a full house. This is despite Nathan being on call. This is despite Neil being a brand new parent and clearly should be doing bedtime around this time. And this is despite Sam going on the lads' weekend away this weekend. But we all managed to come back. And despite me sitting in urgent care all morning, nothing to do with me. But that's why we had to move it back this morning as well. But lads, thank you for coming on. Nathan, how are you doing, mate?
I'm very well. Just a good group of committed lads ready to talk crap about Burnley. Bring it on.
Yeah, ready to cry, I think, is what it's going to be like. Neil, there might be some crying in your house at bedtime, but it's probably only going to be from you. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Yeah. It will be from me. Yeah. It's one of them weekends, isn't it?
Yeah, and Sam has been on a lads' weekend with the lads, a sore head, but the sore head came from watching Burnley on Saturday. How are you doing, mate?
I'm not bad, mate. I'm not bad. A few too many drinks, but drowning my sorrows more than anything.
Yeah, fair enough. I enjoyed them intros. Nathan, I apologise that you only got, "Hi, mate, how you doing?" And then I had something lined up for the other two.
You well wrote them two beforehand, didn't you?
It sounded
I was thinking that's very scripted.
It's because I've been doing streams all day, so I'm in the zone. I'm in the
It was just the seamless link of there will be crying, but it'll be. I'm like, oh god, it threw me off.
We're going off the world.
If you're going to do that, just let us know. Then I've got something back because it threw me off.
I won't tell you then because I don't want something back. Get your comments coming in. I'll ask the lads what their thoughts on their game in just a second, but let me know what you thought on that game. If you want to do so, if you can do it without typing out good afternoon, evening actually. It's what time are we on? 8:30, it's evening, talking shit. Chris P, good evening. He says, I'm hoping after this defeat that we'll have the Sheffield United effect and change our season around. We can't keep saying we're losing because of the quality of the opposition. I mean, yeah, we're not just losing because of the quality of the opposition, but perspective is needed when we do have to look at the teams that we have played. But again, we'll get into that in a bit deeper in a bit. The True Red, who is a Forest fan, congratulations, mate, on your win at Stamford Bridge yesterday, although it does fuck us a little bit. Tough start, lads, but that's the nature of the Premier League. Once the squad gets used to each other, knows how company wants them to play, the results will start to show. I do agree with that, to be honest, but again, we'll get into it. John says, could be a blessing in disguise, like having an ice bath. By the time they get used to the level of the league, we will get the easier games and we battle hard, and by then, yes, but obviously the flip side of that, John, is that we could be out of sight by then. By the time we're coming to the easier run of games, not that there's any easier games in the Prem, but the easier games, because there are easier games than Man City, Villa and Tottenham. We could be 6 or 7 points adrift of some teams. But thankfully, there's a lot of dross in the league. Tucker says, despite feeling a little anxious, I'm going to try and form an opinion after 10 games or so. We've played 3 tough games. I agree, mate. Jamie says, hello, lads. Hello, Jamie. Hope you're well, mate, despite yesterday. Claret1 says, evening, guys. Never thought I'd be so glad for the international break. Yeah, I agree. It's just a shame that we're bottom, innit? It's every time you look at the league table. Not that I really do after 3 games, but you've just got to, bottom. Well done to you all for turning up after that result. Yep. Now that I've got other people on board, like the lads, when I first started doing it and we were a bit shit, I was like, I'm not going to do all this week. I can't really get away with it now. Chris P again says we have to go for Forest after the internationals and get something, ideally a win. Yep. Jamie says not very good, being honest. Got to go again. Yep. And whatever that name is says that Forest game is massive. It is, but Forest showed their quality yesterday with a win at Stamford Bridge. Now, lads, Neil, you just missed it, but Nathan and Sam, you managed to watch come into the green room, whatever it is, early on, and we just watched the goals back, didn't we? Nathan, I'll start with you first. What were your thoughts on yesterday's humbling against Tottenham?
It was like the worst roller coaster you could go on. It had an amazing, all the excitement came right at the beginning, and then it was just a long, slow downhill for the next 90-something minutes. And the first 10 minutes, we were class. We were just on it. It looked like it just clicked into place, and I really thought, yeah, this is it. This is the company way. This is what we're doing. This is how it's going to look. And we just fell apart completely. I'm gonna throw it out there early on in it because it really knocked me off why we played Jordan Bayer, because he was just not fit enough to play the game. And I'm not blaming the loss on him. I'm not saying that, but he didn't have his confidence in his own ability on Saturday, so he couldn't pull people and boss people around and take the game by the scruff of the neck like he usually does. I understand we've got to put him in, and we probably gambled because we have the international break, but he shouldn't have played that game. We were carrying him. We were a bit of a passenger, but on the whole, I thought the game was just a disaster from anything. And I know we've got to caveat all this. I think we played 3 of the best teams we've seen this season. Really,
I think we played 3 of the top 6. Yeah. The teams will be in the top 6 at the end.
Yeah, comfortably. They're 3 of the better teams I've seen so far, and I've watched most of the games, most of the highlights anyway, and I've not seen a better looking 3 teams. Or maybe other than, you could probably throw Brighton in that mix, to be honest. But we've got to caveat all this with that they are pretty good teams. But like you said, Joe, in your fan reaction, is it was a level of naiveness that I've not seen for a long while. We've sat through some shite in the past, but we were always pretty solid at the back, you know what I mean? We very rarely got tonked like that, very rarely, and yet here we are sitting on a hat full of goals and not many scored. And anyway, yeah, it was just a bit of a disaster from probably 7 minutes onwards, not minute 1, you know what I mean?
Yeah, just quickly break away before I get Sam and Neil's opinion on the game as well. JT Conlon has the most ridiculous comment I've seen for a long time. Says, Alan Pace is the problem. Just going to leave it at that. And then he follows it up with out of touch. Don't leave it at that, mate. If you're going to put a stupid opinion in there, follow it up with the stupid reasoning. Why was Alan Pace the problem yesterday? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Sam, your thoughts on the game, though, from yesterday?
Oh, where to start? I mean, good goal. Good goal from us. Luca looks brilliant. Obviously, Lyle scoring again is another positive. But other than individual performances, anybody that pulls positives from that, honestly, you need to wake up and realise the situation. We're not in a mid-table finish. This just shows the situation that we're in. We're not going to... I know it's 3 games in, and we've played tough teams, but the style of play that we are playing with at the moment is nothing like last season. We look disjointed. We look like the attackers play at one end of the pitch and the defenders play on another, and midfield, when they've got the ball, they run off like in NFL. The midfield just run off and just stand on sideline and just wait. The midfield was non-existent yesterday. They're a good team. They've got good players, but every single goal came from our own mistake. None of them were goals where you looked at it and thought, wow, what an unbelievably well-worked goal. The first goal, ball over the top, ball watching,
too easy.
2 passes. The second goal, not closing down quick enough. It's a brilliant finish. Again, you can't take away from things like that, but yeah, just so poor and just so not what we expected to be going into this situation with. We expected to be, coming into the Premier League and establishing this style of play is the reason why Burnley are going to be fine this season. Results aside, performances in those 3 games have not, other than a decent first half, City have just not been good enough. Like, nothing to get the fans off the seat and nothing to, really pluck away and say, we're going to go into that Forest game that everyone's saying is a big game at the current stage of the season, where you think, yeah, we can really go at them here. Because there's just not enough positives to pluck.
I do wonder if we actually, looking back on last season, were we actually a bit, did we have them moments last year but didn't get punished for it? I'm thinking
100%.
We actually got probably blindsided by how we beat a lot of teams, but I do think if we'd have played like we probably are playing the same style of football, but we're just being absolutely crippled by it and punished instantly. You've got Heung-min Son, you can't give him a sniff at all.
Exactly.
James Maddison, as much of an annoying prick he is, he's a very, very talented footballer. I'm just wondering if we have been playing like this for quite a while and not realised it until this season that there is a bit of we have got a soft underbelly.
You will get punished more in the Premier League with the style of play that we play. Yeah. The angle that I don't want us to go down is like I go back to it all the time, but when Norwich came up a few years ago, they were an attacking outfit with a good manager and they wanted to play on the front foot, high press, win the ball back, and they went down by March. And I don't want it to be like that. I don't want to be going into games and playing this style of play and not having that grit and grind to just say, look at who we're playing. And it sounds really stupid because of last season with how well we were playing, but to go into a game against Spurs and almost feel like we're trying to go, like toe to toe with them and how they play when they have players that are worth 50, 60, 70 million pounds, it's just not going to happen. So when you're playing out from the back with that and you've got Son and Maddison, they're going to punish you if you mess up. It is what it is.
Yeah, I think you both make a good point there. I think we got away with it last season because we're playing against, some very poor players. Whereas this season, we're going to get found out a bit more. But Neil, obviously, your thoughts on the game yesterday?
Yeah, I think what Nathan just said there is what I was going to start with, is that this mirrors the exact thing of how we started last season. It's just at that level of player that we're playing against, especially playing those 3 teams so far. We are going to get punished. We all knew we were going to get some beatings, and we all knew that we'd hand them out. But I'm not as confident on the handing out bit at the minute. The most disappointing thing for me isn't the results now. It's the performances. We look like, especially for a team that was so well drilled, we look like a team that has never played together at the minute. And it's these individual mistakes that, they haven't, to be fair, have they? Because let's face it,
that back four was an absolute mishmash.
Yeah,
really, to be honest.
But the thing that's baffling to me is that Vinny's had them in since June. So why are so many of them looking so unfit?
Mm-hmm.
And
I forgot about that. I forgot about us coming back so early as well.
It's had them back since June, and there's so many look unfit and like they haven't played together. For me, I've been reluctant to criticise, but Vinny's not immune to it. I think I said it in my reaction yesterday because I recorded a few because I was trying not to swear in some. I think it's on him yesterday because I think he got it completely wrong. And I think he's getting it wrong, and he'll learn from it because he does. Because he does. But I think this policy we've got of buying young players, selling them, and starting again, we need to keep that spine in because these young lads, they're being thrown to the wolves at the minute, and it's a proper baptism of fire to put players like Trafford, who's been playing League One football, or Shea, who's been at West Brom. And all of a sudden they're playing Haaland, they're playing Ollie Watkins, they're playing against Son with no experience on that pitch to help them and guide them through it. So for me, Vinny's got to look at what he's done so far and put Muric back in, Brownhill back in, JBG back in, and just go back to basics. These individual mistakes need to go because the more these young players start making these mistakes, their heads will drop, confidence will go, and that's where it is for me. So it's the performances really that are the most disappointing thing for me. Because last year when we played City in the Cup, we went toe to toe with them. We did all right. I know we got absolutely spanked, but you could see our style of play. You could see that we looked good, and we thought we'll give them a game. It's completely different this season. We just don't look like that. So it's the performances we don't look like. We are going to get there at the minute.
It's like it's rectifying the result. Obviously, not to the extent that it was this bad at the beginning of last season, but the performances were just as bad at the beginning of last season. Like there was no,
they were,
and like we are just being found out. Like luckily, we had a team that was easily top 3 in the Championship at that time. So when we were playing crap against Blackpool, we'd just draw the game, or we were playing crap against Watford, we'd just lose 1-0. Like, it didn't look as bad on paper, where, like we said, it's all just going tits up. Like, it looks like it's just. I think I know it will get better. I'm positive it will, because he's proved it once before, and I think he'll do it again. He'll prove it again, because we've got a plethora of talent on that pitch. Like, the individuals on that pitch are excellent, like some really excellent players, but it's just like what we said at the beginning of the season. Do we have the time for it to click? Do we have this time for it to sort of bed in and do his 130 hours coaching or whatever? Have we got time? But before you know it, we're going to be, potentially could be 12 points adrift.
That there, sorry to jump in, mate, but when you said that Vinny knows it's 130 hours, but for me, that's even more baffling. Why is not sticking with some of last year's players to let the new players come in and get that 130 hours? It's just, I can't get my head around it.
You do wonder if he thought that he would get some of them players back in and it didn't come off for whatever reason.
Maybe.
You do wonder if he did put his eggs in that basket of bringing in the players that he needed. Like, the team looks completely different, I think, with Taylor and Maatsen signed, and possibly even THB. It looks completely different, and it looks a bit more settled, but anyway, we're drifting.
So what's the solution then, lads? Because obviously there's calls for Brownhill to come in, which I agree with, because I've seen nothing from Sanderberg yet to suggest. I was so excited when we signed him, because he's so
Sanderberg.
good.
Sanderberg is another one who it looks like he's carrying an injury for me. He just does not look fit. He looks like he's running through treacle. He's just, I don't know. I've said the solution, mate. I think it's get some of those players, the ones we've got from last year, get them back in.
I actually thought we looked all right when Coke came on. I know like not a lot of people are Coke's biggest fan, and he is coming towards his twilight of his career, but he just seemed to have that bit of drag, like that bit of pull behind him to drag others with us, to say, just run us that extra 5, you know what I mean? He seemed to have that, and he got, Brownhill responded to that, and he ended up grabbing a little goal just by, making a few runs and stuff. But I think bringing a few of them players in is important. It's a tough one to do. It's hard for does company stick to what he believes in, because he obviously has a very distinct pattern of what he wants to do, but it's hard for coaches. But I suppose that'll separate the men from the boys, won't it? In good coaches, is they will willingly say, I'm not getting this right at the minute, I need to change it. So hopefully, like someone put on the comments, excited for the international break, I think it's actually come at the perfect time. It's stopped. Could stop the rot, as it were. Sounds like an extreme thing to say, but it could stop the rot and give us a breather for a couple of minutes. Yeah,
fair enough. Sam, obviously you mentioned earlier then the style of play, or it might have been off camera, off live, and how you think that we can't do it in this league and stuff like that. What do you think the solution is? Do you think we have to bring certain players back in? Do you think we have to tweak the style of play, or a bit of both?
I think it just needs. Listen, it's a system that works, so it's not. It's proven to work, so there is the foundations there for it to be good and work well. But there is a naivety to that situation where if you have an attacking team with all the players that you want, i.e., and again, anyone can see it. You don't have to be anywhere near intelligent to see if you go into a game with a left back position without a left back playing there. What's the point? Like the goals and that back four situation, like that's not difficult to rectify. Just buy a left back and play players where they used to play. Like you've got centre halves like Ekdal, Dara O'Shea. These are good players, but then all of a sudden out of nowhere you go, Conor Roberts, you played right back all last season. Everybody loves you. You're left back today, mate. Yeah. Like I can't wrap my head around this. The divide between attackers and defenders. Like the attack seems so dead set. Like Luca, brilliant. A willing runner, somebody who's willing to get the ball and just go. Amdouni's so technically good, and he will come good. It's just right now he seems a little bit kind of quiet, and he gets on the ball. He's not involved in it as much as I'd like to yet, but he's a player that's showing glimpses. Foster looks brilliant. I can very easily turn. I'm getting towards that stage where I'm eating humble pie. Like I understand like the situation about hours and training sessions and stuff like that. Foster's taken 6 to 7 months to get to this stage where we can finally say, look at this player. We don't have that time in this situation. And that defence is such a worry. And I know people will go on performance and say, and move to the statistics side of it and say, on paper, it looked like we went toe-to-toe and the talk about the first half. We lost 5-2.
Yeah.
It could have been 7-2.
Yeah.
It could have been 7-2. There were so many more opportunities where we lost the ball. And if our style of play is playing out from the back, fine. Make sure you can do it right. Yeah. And make sure you can do it right in a league of better players.
Yeah.
Because the side for it from me is I see glimpses of where it can go well. The first 15 minutes, for example, when we got the goal and go at them and do the high press, that's fine. Those goals we conceded were absolutely shocking. That first goal is ridiculously bad. The third goal's terrible. And the fifth goal, what kind of high line were we playing? They were literally on the halfway line. He played a ball from like about 2 yards from the halfway line and he slipped it around and there was nobody there.
Yeah.
Like like Neil says, it's performances. It's not individuals. No. It's not players and this type of thing. It's just performance. We have to go back to the drawing board. And I agree with you guys. Brownhill coming back in. It's another player you don't have to teach the system to. It's why I can imagine we put all our eggs in the Maatsen basket at left back. But I just think if you bring those new players in, we still have a completely new squad of players that still need to fit the system. Like Brownhill was key in the attacking midfield role, but that defence is just so worrying for me. And the fact that it looks like he's got his attacking quartet sorted and it's set and he's happy with who's playing there. That defence just looks makeshift.
One thing I noticed on the back of the defence is, like, I've played goalkeeper for a good few years. I used to be a goalkeeping coach. Like I watch the goalkeepers a bit more than I do other positions. Trafford's silent, like completely silent. Like I've watched for the past 10 years, not 10 years, but over the past 10 years, Tom Heaton, Joe Hart, Nick Pope, that you can, like, if I stood at singing Ringing Tree and looked down, I could hear them shouting at the turf, you know what I mean? Like they bellow. Trafford does nothing. He doesn't talk enough, and I think I know it actually it installs an element of nervousness in the defence when you've not got that talking behind you. It's a very little thing, and it's an easy thing to change. If you just got a keeper that's just chatting all game, even if it's a load of bollocks, it's just chatting. It's constantly letting the conversation happen between the defence and the keeper. And Trafford just isn't doing that. And again, I don't want this episode to become a bagging of individual players, because I think there's a bigger problem at play. But there's some individual players that I think aren't bad. I just don't think this should be in this system just yet. You know what I mean? Like we keep saying, we've got players that know the system, that know how wants to play, that have played under company. They should be playing in this system from minute one. Muric is that one. I genuinely think you put Muric back in the team. You look at the difference in performance in counter-attack from what we had on Saturday. I know it was Forest in a cup game, but it was sharp, it was quick, it was aggressive, and a lot of the build-up play came from Muric getting the ball, bang, releasing it straight away. Trafford gets it, and he's like, "Oh, Roberts is on. Oh yeah, go on, I give it to Roberts." Muric just goes, bang, Roberts is on straight away. Or like,
this is what I was saying to you off camera just before we started, mate. And I know, like, everyone who watches this knows that I'm the Muric fanboy, but he genuinely does need to come back in. And Trafford will be a good keeper, but the issue I've got is that he's not ready. And the more he plays, whilst he's not ready, his confidence is going to go.
Yeah.
Vinny will run out of patience and just be like, right, you're off, you're not going. He needs time to just develop and take his time. He's come from League One to the Premier League with no in between. And I know certain players can do that, but goalkeeping is a massively unforgiving position. If a midfielder makes a mistake, someone can mop it up. But if Trafford makes a mistake, which he has done, he did in his debut, it's a goal and it's demoralising for him. So for me, whilst this defence is bedding in and whilst Trafford's bedding in, we should have Muric back there who's just that element of calm, knows the system. Yeah. Let Trafford just develop and work with the coaches and work with Muric away from the cameras, away from the crowd. Bring him in when he's ready. Yeah. For me, I thought he should have been playing Trafford in the cups and let him just get that flavour then and then bring him in.
I think I said on Twitter yesterday, it's the Joe Hart versus Tom Heaton debate all over again, whereas Joe Hart was in the team and wasn't really doing too much wrong, but he wasn't Tom Heaton and he wasn't as good. Like, there was different styles of keeper. Like, Joe Hart would always be camped on his line and then he'd make a few good saves, but then we'd lose 5-1 at home to Everton. Yeah. Whereas Heaton would be coming out and collecting the crosses, just taking the pressure off. And I think it's a similar thing now. I think it's a case of Trafford. He made a couple of good saves yesterday, and you can't really label any individual goals on him individually. But I just think when we have the ball and we're trying to, like you both just said then, like Neil just said then, and we're trying to beat the press and they're coming onto us, I think Trafford just does that so much better. Muric just does that so much better. And I think you mentioned there, Nathan, about the confidence and things like that. I think part of that, it may be the shouting, it may be the talking. You'll know more than that about me, about being a former goalkeeper coach. But I think a lot of it is being confident on the ball. I know it's different. And some people might turn around and say, well, Muric was doing that in the Championship. Well, yeah, but he did. He did it very well in the Championship. Give him the chance to do it in the Premier League. And like you both just said, and Neil said before he had to quickly dash off a second, he will be back. It just brings like a level of calmness to the defence. And I think I don't want to slag Trafford off. I don't think he's done too much wrong. I just think Muric would be the better option for right now, and he deserves his chance in the Premier League after how we did so well last season.
I'm never want to sort of bag on Trafford because he's young. Like he's got to learn. Like he has to go and learn his trade somewhere. He has to go and keep doing it. He's very young, and like Nick Pope didn't get decent until like 28, 29. Like that's a long time away from Trafford. He's still got plenty of time. But it's ultimately, I think it comes down to like that relationship between centre halves and wing backs and midfield in the keeper. I think it really translates quite strongly. And if you've got a keeper that that's a bit nervous on the ball, a little bit like you are reluctant to play that pass instinctively. Like they'll still play the pass because it's part of the system, but you will just hesitate to make sure that he's ready for it, or And then like there's times where he just gets the ball at his feet and he waits, and he's like he wants to make that pass, but he's having to decide when to make. It's just really frustrating to watch when we've got such a good keeper on the bench that knows the system. He delivers it. Yeah, he made some absolute howlers. Like he did make some clangers last year. So what? He's playing a way that's companies telling him to play. But Muric did it with us all last season and deserves his chance to play in the big league. That's why he's come back to us. He believed in us to come and play for us, to go back to the Premier League, to play in the Premier League. He deserves his chance. Like I said to you boys off camera, like Trafford, we should have bought him because he's a great investment as a goalkeeper. We should bring him in because we can then loan him out, get him some game time, bring him in. If it's not worth, loan him out again. Then the value will come back when we sell him and he will become good enough. So it's not a case of put Muric in because he's a better goalkeeper than Trafford. It's just right now we need a keeper to fit our system and play comfortably within the team, and Trafford just isn't doing that. And I think it's really hampering us. I think it really, especially when we've got constant mishmash of centre halves and stuff, and the back line's changing every game. Like you need a confident keeper that can take the game by the balls and just run with it. So
I think you lose the luxury of a loan with a player based on the price tag a little bit when you're a club like us. Yeah. Like if you're Chelsea and you buy someone for £16 million, you know that they're an investment for the future. So a loan sounds fine. Yeah. £16 million to us is more than the majority of people that we're saying are ready to start. It's more than Trezor, who was our main transfer target, looking like our main transfer target for the whole window. Like, so I think we lose that luxury slightly from doing that. And I 100% agree with what you're saying though. Like one of the points that my dad made, which I just think and it stuck with me because he texted me while I was away and he said it and I was like, he's spot on. You go back through history and look at all the teams that come up. There won't be many teams that don't struggle when making the jump into the Premier League where they don't change the team. Yeah. Like we've changed our team so dramatically that is an extra thing that we already have to deal with. You're not just looking at performances of players that have already proven it to you in the system. You're also bringing players in that now have to completely learn the system, and you're starting them every game. And I know you have to give them game time, but that is now showing a little bit. Like the disjointedness comes from having players that haven't played a system, and we're just kind of going and say like the first kind of 5-6 games, just throwing them out and saying, just give it a go, ease your way into it. You can't afford that in the Premier League. In the Championship, where our mindset was different, where we were kind of like, we'll rebuild for 2-3 years, people were willing to be patient. because of how well last season went, everybody's expectations went from here to up here.
Yeah.
So we ended up changing our opinion to we could be very comfortable in this league. I mean, why wouldn't you? You got 103 odd points and only lost 3 games all season. But this is the realistic side of where we are. We're in a better league with better players, better teams, and we are a new team with new players, a system that isn't Premier League proven with those group of players. And we are now seeing that 0 points minus 8 goal difference. And people, I understand picking positives from individual players' performances. I agree. But you can't tell me that there is positives to take from those 3 performances other than the first half at City. Because there's just not enough for me. Like, you know, being in a game at 1-1 and then conceding that goal just before half time for us, we gradually let them grow more and more and more confident for the 20 minutes after they scored on the 16th minute. And then by the end of the first half, we were just camped in. Camped in, and it was wave after wave after wave of attack.
Heads dropped, mate. That's why. The players' heads dropped, and that's why we need the experience on the pitch to keep the heads up, keep the chins up.
Young heads. Yeah, that's
young heads, yeah, exactly.
I do wonder if actually Turf Moor is actually a bit of our downfall at the minute, because I feel like we start really strong with an atmosphere and stuff, and then it just instantly blows away. And I know it's hard to, you know, it's an old silly debate, but like these are very young, inexperienced players. It's going to affect them, stuff like that. You know, when a stadium drops silent when you've just conceded an equaliser, and the atmosphere doesn't really bounce back. I imagine it probably would affect a younger player, that a slightly inexperienced player, like your Corkies and that. They won't bother about them. They're not bothered about stuff like that. But you know, I'm wondering if that sort of played on it a little bit. That, you know, but again, I'm not blaming the fans. We lost 5-2. That's not a problem whatsoever. It was just, I'm thinking it's a whole melting pot of issues that we're trying to iron out. Like the problem with signing young, exciting, unknown talents is they are unknown talents and they've never played in this league, but they're young and exciting and the ceiling's ridiculously high. But there's got to be an element of realism involved in it, hasn't there? And you've got to win games ultimately.
Yeah, I do think the atmosphere was quite good yesterday. I think for the first part of the second half, it were a bit flat because we were just getting pummeled. But then even at 5-1, we picked up a bit. But the defensive unit, not the defense, but the team as a defensive unit's got a lot of stick, rightly so, because you know it's been absolutely shambolic. Like, I'll start with you, Neil, on this one, because they were cut open far too easy. Like, we've just. Like, oh, you actually missed it though, Neil, but I don't know if you've watched them back since, but we've just watched the goals, and the first goal that they scored is far too easy in it. The defensive line is too high. It's a ball over the top. You've got 2-on-2, and Son plays in, I think it's Solomon, who then gets it back to him, and a good finish from Son. But then there's no challenges on the edge of the box, and I understand why, because they don't want a free kick or whatever. But it's just. And you know, I'm not even blaming the central defenders. Like, it was too easy for Spurs to be in that position. Like, there was zero protection. They were too high up the pitch. It was too easy for Spurs to get the ball to them and then bring it down. And there was, even then in that scenario, there's no pressure on them. So why do you think that as a defensive unit we are so bad at the minute? Do you think it's the defence? Do you think it's no organisation? Do you think it's the tactics? Or do you think it's the midfield offering no protection?
It's all of it. It's the defence that haven't played together and are learning how each other play. So if we had Matson there and we had Roberts on the right and we had Ekdal and Bayer, for example, they've played together. They know exactly how each other plays. They know that where each other's going to be on the pitch, and that's what these lads are learning now, is how to play with each other. So that's part of it. Same for the midfield. So again, that's all new. We're carrying Sanderberg. So assume he's out and Court comes in, for example. That'll probably improve that a little bit. But carrying Sanderberg isn't helping. Yeah. Cullen doesn't look himself. So whether that's just because I had heard last year that he goes missing at international level. So maybe has he found his level? I don't know. So I think it's that. I think it's just players who are learning to play with each other, and until they do, these mistakes are going to happen, and that organisation and that coming together to defend isn't going to happen until they've learned to play with each other.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Nathan, why do you think it's so poor defensively? Do you think it's a mixture of all three? I think it's a tactical thing. We've got Quilter, who's a friend of the pod, been on the pod before. He says, feel like the defence needs Ekdal in there at the moment. as much as I love Ekdal, I think he's a good defender. I think he's a bit slow into Ekdal. That's probably Ekdal's flaw, and I think he'd got pulled apart yesterday because of the high line. So I think it's more of a tactical thing, if I'm honest with you. Nathan, what do you think?
The common theme throughout this chat it's not about individuals. It's about performance, and it's about tactics. It's about there's something fundamentally wrong when they scored one by smashing the ball over the top, and then they just did it again and again. Like Villa did it to us. Like it was, it doesn't take 3 games to figure that out. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty glam. But I thought the midfield was a massive problem. Like we're playing 2. I know they're not playing defensive midfielders, but we're playing 2 in midfield. Yeah, Sander Berg, he finds himself like in the channel at the corner flag, like trying to hold the ball up, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why? I know he sees himself as an attacking midfielder, but I'm not being funny. Like, we need to have more protection in front of a back 4. Like, if we start with a back 5 and let the game settle, you can afford one of them midfielders to sort of drift and run around. But we start with a back 4, and we've got 2 midfielders, and one of them's wandering. So, like, the whole protection's gone completely, and the gaps in midfield, when we had the ball in defence, were ridiculous. Like, the middle of the park were just vacant of Burnley players. Like, for every time the left back or the right back had the ball, there was nobody in midfield wanting to get that ball and break a line. Like, it just wasn't happening. And that was fundamentally the problem every time. And that's where most of the goals come from, was just errors on our part. Like, we weren't, Spurs did well to just, they blew us away because we gave them the chance to blow us away. Like, I don't want Spurs fans to jump on this and jump on me, but like, they didn't have to really work that hard to beat us 5-2. We just kept giving them opportunities to go and score goals. Like, and they all have individual players that are very, very good to do that, to punish you. But the glaring option is just the gaps between the defence and midfield, and then beyond that, like, it's just so. It just didn't seem organised whatsoever, and I know like we're used to watching some sort of an organised defence at Burnley. You know what I mean? Granted, last season we were a bit different. We were a bit of a, sexy football and whatnot. But we're used to watching some form of, like, regardless of if we lost the game, it would only be by 1, wouldn't it? That was our biggest criticism of Dice, is we'd go 1-0 up and we'd shut up shop. That was our biggest criticism, weren't it? Like, all the time it was just go and get another because we'd lose the game or draw. But we do not look like we have the ability to even think about shutting up shop, let alone try and shut up shop. Like, it's just, I don't know what the solution is. Like, Ekdal would be good, I think, in there. I really do, because he has that slower pace, but I think that would probably keep him in position a bit more. I think it would. He's got a very good reading of the game as Ekdal. I think he should be playing over someone like O'Shea for now. Like, O'Shea shouldn't be starting every game. O'Shea should be stepping into games and getting minutes to get used to the system. Again, it's what you said, Neil. Like, we've got players that are learning the system. They're trying to get used to what we're trying to do. And we've got players on the bench that have played a whole 12 months, like, or, maybe not as much as some players, but they're used to the system, and they're sat watching this game as passengers going, oh, we should be doing this. I know what he's trying to do, but they're not doing it, and we just need to go back to keeping that continuity again. I can't remember which one of you said it. Like, we've come from one league to another with absolute zero continuity whatsoever, and we're getting found out for it at the minute. We need to get back to what we did last season with the players that did it with us, as many as we can anyway.
Yeah, I mean, O'Shea and like you're saying there, they're learning the trade.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for them, they're learning it against Haaland, against Son, against Ollie Watkins.
You can't do that.
It's got to be demoralising, isn't it?
Yeah. But you can't do that. You're stupid. You don't learn to drive by doing it on fucking Silverstone F1, do you? You know what I mean? You don't jump in. You do quiet B roads. You do middle of the day when everyone's at school, at work. Like, you do it in easy circumstances where you learn your trade. You don't do it against the best teams in the league at this current period of time. Like, doesn't make sense because Villa just got pumped 3-0 today. But anyway, you know what I mean? Like, these are dangerous teams, and yet we're bedding players in that, quite frankly, we should have done that. Like, most of them players before Man City had never even stepped foot at Turf Moor. You know what I mean? Like, we'd not played a single game at Turf Moor. Like, it sounds trivial, but stuff like that affects players. You need to learn to play at the home ground a lot quicker than they are doing. So, yeah, it's frustrating. The more I think about it, the more frustrating I get about it now. And it just seems so glaringly obvious to do that. But who are we to sit here and get company to change his ways. I just know he's given us an amazing season last season, so it sounds really horrible to.
I can't remember which one of you said it earlier, but I think the young heads thing is a good point. It's a squad full of youngsters. We need some experience in there.
Yeah.
I'd have a midfield three, and I know some people say Cork's legs have gone, but I just yes against the bigger sides, maybe a game might bypass him, but a midfield three of Cullen, Cork, Brownell, spearheading it, and then that brings a bit more experience into the middle and a bit more protection because Cork will be in there as well. And Cork is the type of player that will break down these moves because Berg. I think the idea of bringing Berg in is he is going to do that, but he sees himself as more as an attacking midfielder. I think if we play him properly and he gets used to the system, then he could, once he's used to the style and the system, then go into the attacking midfield role and rotate that with Brownhill. But I don't know. I just think I didn't want Cork at the start of the season, but now after what I've seen in the last few games, I'm thinking maybe Cork and Cullen in that role.
I know Cork's legs have gone, but you can use the experience to help with that. He can break the play up and give it to a quicker player to do that. He doesn't need the legs.
Yeah, but let your experienced players on the pitch keep you in the games that little bit longer.
Exactly.
Like we are blessed with some incredible attacking talent at this football club right now. Like I have not been able to say that for a long time as a Burnley fan. Like we have genuinely got a plethora of attacking footballers that will excite most Premier League teams, but we also need some experience in to allow them players to win the games for us. It's no good having them players that can win games when you're 5-1 down and then they're trying to win it. You need some experience in there. Like Brownie, Cullen and Cook is not an attractive three for me, but that'll keep you in the game, I think, a little bit. It'll keep you in most games a little bit longer and allow these players to either come on in place of them or come on for others and make something happen. Like the amount of times we just sat in and we just dug in and we were doing our bit. Nothing were happening going forward last season for some games, and then bang, you bring Benson on, and because we stayed in the game, we've kept it tight, we've done our jobs. It allows Benson, it allows Arui to come on and just be absolutely magic. And I think we're not like we need to get back to that. Like stay in games, dominate possession, try and dominate possession, and try and do what I want, and then get the players on to bring the magic. Like signing Trezor, like again, amazing player, but was that a priority? Like no, looking at it, it's not needed. Like we don't need Trezor. Like that sounds ridiculous for me to say it, but we're crying out for another centre half and a left back.
Yeah,
it's the experienced heads that are going to coach the game, isn't it? The experienced heads are going to say, "You need to be there, release the ball there, give it him, you come back." That's what the young lads don't know, and that's what they've got nobody telling them what to do on that pitch. They're just learning it as the guys we've already said. So for me, it's that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Then Nathan, you're saying like, it's not the most attractive midfield three, and I agree with that, but it will keep you in the game longer. And then you've got the likes of Coley-Osho and Foster and Benson when he starts playing again to try and win us the game. So that's something I'd look at doing next. That midfield three. There's been a lot of chat about the left back position. I got some stick because I got carried away in the first 15 minutes and said Connor Roberts might be the solution at left back, and then obviously everybody with hindsight dives on it. Even people from that shouldn't be doing it, but it is what it is. And it was not the solution. Obviously, there's a massive gaping hole at left back. We all know that. It's blindingly obvious. We've tried 3 different left backs there now, and none of them have worked. Well, none of them are left backs. So let me rephrase that. We've tried 3 different people there now, and none of them have worked. There's this big clamour for Charlie Taylor to come back in. I think Martson would have been perfect. There's been so many scenarios yesterday where I thought Martson would have been perfect there. I remember once the ball, Connor Roberts was trying to do the overlap. The ball went to him because he's right-footed. He then gets to boost the ball on his right foot, whereas Martson had been able to go around and get the ball in the box. We're missing it. I'm at the stage now where I wasn't fussed for Charlie Taylor because I don't think it suits the system. But after watching the last 3 games, he would offer something a little bit more stable. But then you're obviously losing the side of it where, coming into the middle and becoming a defensive midfielder and stuff like that. He just can't do that. So, Sam, I'll start with you because you've been a little quiet the last 10 minutes. So what would you do at that? Yeah, I'm trying to get him going. What would you do at that left-back position? Because it's so glaringly obvious how big of a hole there is in the squad at that position, sorry.
Yeah. I think, mate, the only reason I'm quiet is because, like, you go into a game, you go into weekends at the minute now, and it's like we've said since the start, like, you're not being you're not being a negative football fan for not enjoying being on 0 points and having -8 goal difference and only having like 2 or 3 players out of your 20-man squad as potential positive players to talk about. Like, I think that left back spot, I think it's a no-brainer to me. And I feel like anybody that says, oh, Charlie Taylor can't play this way and can't play that way, he's a left back. It doesn't matter. It's like going into Formula One and being on a motorbike. It's like you wouldn't ever get. It's not allowed. It shouldn't be allowed. We shouldn't be playing centre halves at left back. We shouldn't be playing a right back at left back. You need a left-footed left back in the way that we play, with the style of football that we have, who can do overlapping runs, who can join on with the attack and can get the ball in the box. I completely agree with what you're saying about Maatsen. Maatsen can take his man and go into the box and square it across the box. What we did for years under Dyche was get the ball to the byline, cut back, play it backwards. McNeil would come in, and if he wasn't on the left-hand side, he'd do the same at right mid. He'd turn, he'd have to come back, he'd play it to a fullback, and a fullback would have to whip the ball in. But by that point, everybody's already made the runs and he's coming back in. Like, our style of football suits the squares across the box. And if we don't have the personnel to do that, like, for example, go over all the games, Delcourt, like, he's a centre-half. He didn't want to run with ball. He doesn't want to run with the ball. He wants to sit there. So then you say to Connor Roberts, oh, will you drop into midfield? Well, that's all well and good. But if Connor Roberts is doing it every time, these are clever footballers. So they see, oh, Roberts is going to run, so I'll follow him. Yeah. And then the right midfielder just stands up next to Delcourt. So then these balls over the top are the easiest thing on the planet. Yeah. It doesn't take a genius to look at Charlie Taylor in that squad and, look at the situation and say, bring in a bloody left back, man. Yeah. Like, honestly.
I think it just makes us look a little bit. I mean, I want to phrase this right because I don't want to get clipped up and get piss taken at me. But like, we've spent 140 million nearly this season. Like, that's the best transfer window I've ever seen us do ever. You know what I mean? Like, the players we brought in, but it makes us also look stupid that not one of them is a left back. Like, not a single one of them. Like, granted, a lot of these players are going to have a good sell on whatever, but it was glaringly obvious that we needed a left back because Maatsen hadn't come back yet, and he obviously still hasn't come back. But it was so obvious for so long, and granted, it's a tough position to fill. Like, there's a lot of clubs actually struggling for left backs. Really, like, United have got left back issues. There's other teams who've got left. But surely someone somewhere would have gone, we don't have a left back here. Hold on a minute. It's a week till the end of the transfer window. Should we maybe line up a second option and just bring one in, just in case the Maatsen deal can't work? Because if then we bring in a left back and then bring in Maatsen, we go, that's a great idea. That we've not only brought the left back we want, but we've also brought a backup in. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we've got neither is absolutely ridiculous. And Charlie Taylor, like, while he probably is the answer because he's an actual left back, why the fuck would he want to play? He's sat now and he's watched 3 different players play in his position, and he's like, I am a left back. I will not do what you want me to do in terms of going forward, but I can play left back. Like, it goes back to what I said earlier. These experienced players will not be sexy, but they'll keep you in games a little bit longer. Like, that Villa game, if Charlie Taylor's there, Matty Cash doesn't get the space that he got all pretty much that game. Charlie Taylor just goes up on him, man on man, and he'll just kick lumps out of him. He'll just boot the ball into the sideline. But it's not sexy, but it'll keep you in games for a little bit longer. Like, again, it just sounds so horrible to say it, but it's the company's getting that wrong. Like, he is getting that wrong fundamentally week in, week out. He's getting it wrong, that position, and it's being exploited now because the first goal against Tottenham, the centre halves come across and they double up on the player with the ball, which is what they're told to do. Roberts isn't in his normal position. He's not, that trigger's not there to come inside and be, because he's not playing in his right position. It's just not worked. So he's left a gaping hole behind them for Sonny just to run in and do what he wants. So you got to have players. You got to play players in the position and don't stop trying to fit play. We're not City. We don't have players that are like, if you have Cancelo could probably play both sides, and if Cancelo's at 50%, he's still going to be better than most right backs playing at full 100%. But yeah, it's just frustrating, that whole situation. Like, we just desperately need a left back and we haven't fucking got one. And it's concerning me now that until January we won't have one.
Yeah, I think Harry puts it perfectly. Sorry, Neil, we'll let you go on in a minute. Harry puts it perfectly there. He says, I get Taylor doesn't suit the system. down to a T, but surely he's the best choice we have now. And he absolutely is. Like, we've seen us concede 11 goals in the first 3 games and get decimated at that left-back position every single time. Just do something different now. We don't need it to be sexy anymore. We just need to stay in these games longer and let Coley, Osho and Foster be sexy.
Exactly.
And I'm doing it. Let them be sexy.
Yeah.
Don't be sexy at the back. Enjoyed it last season. Maybe enjoy it again next season when we've settled a bit more. Get the experienced players in. Some fans won't like it. Don't care. Let Coley Osho do his runs. Let Foster do his runs. Let all these other lads, Amdouna, Benson, Zarori when he's back, which I think he is for the next game.
Charlie Taylor can do that job. Like, his job, pretty much his whole career at Burnley has been get the ball, put it into the channel, and let a winger chase on it. We've never had wingers to chase onto balls, but now all of a sudden, I'm not saying Charlie Taylor is our answer, but he can fundamentally stand on the byline when the keeper's got the ball, get it pinged to him, bring it down, pop it over the top for Coley Osho. Now he has a player to run on the end of it. It's not hard. Like, I might be properly underthinking it, and companies just, I don't know, like, he's obviously got some master plan that he wants to stick to, but it's so glaringly
I think you're right, mate, though. I genuinely think you're right, though. Like, I've said it for so long now. Like, whenever anybody brings Charlie Taylor up, right, and it's mostly on Twitter, like, most of the people that I speak to in real life have a very sound, sensible opinion. Yeah. If you need a left back, put a left back in. It's not rocket science. With Charlie Taylor, people have looked at this situation and, like, forgotten everything he did under Dyche. Like, at the start of last season, we all said Charlie Taylor could potentially start left back. Like, nobody thought Charlie wasn't going to play. Then he played centre half for a couple of games. Then we just didn't see him for like 20 games. And then he got thrown in against like West Brom or Norwich, and everyone like, oh, not Charlie. He's a good player. Like, where are people getting this random thing that he's not a good player? Like, Charlie Taylor at one point, and it might be Burnley biased, but at one point I thought he's well within. I think it was the season when we finished in the season after we finished in Europe. I thought
I know what you're going to say.
The England squad, and that sounds stupid to say, but I thought he was within that plethora of players that was relatively in, like, close to the squad. People saying that he doesn't fit the system and stuff like that. Do you know what it is? And I don't even care because that performance really annoyed me. People need to understand there is an element of arrogance to the tactics. This has been a proven tactic in the Championship. It's a different league, better players. You're coming up against better opposition. You can't faff around looking at the scenarios and going, Del Quire can play there. You're not Man City. That's a brilliant point you brought up. City can do that. We can't. No. So in that situation, we need a left back. So don't go and buy a 6'4" centre half and play him left back against Moussa Diaby, against Heung-min Son. It doesn't work. It's not hard.
It sounds so stupid saying it, doesn't it?
And it just baffles me. It totally baffles me.
Surely,
and then all these people just swinging opinions around on Twitter, going, "Yeah, well, I understand why Charlie, and I understand why we played Delquart, and this person didn't play bad." Like, it's not players playing bad. That's not what. This isn't bashing individuals, and it's not even bashing company. It's company picks a team and he sets it up. We now have this situation, and this is what company has to work with. He doesn't have a left back, so he is trying to make do. But then he does have a left back. Charlie Taylor's there. He's been there for bloody ages. Like, just put him in there. Try it. See if it works. If it don't work, fine. Then we'll all go, do you know what, Vincent? You were right.
We got that wrong. Yeah.
You've tried everything else. If you're trying everything else, just put a left back in. It's not hard.
That's basically.
Neil, I'm going to say Neil 4.5 minutes ago I butted in. But
sorry, Neil.
So no, I was basically going to say that, right? So I think I was in the chat with you when we were saying that I can't see Taylor playing in company system. However, we've already said that these new players are learning how to play with each other. It's not helping if some of them are out of position. It's not helping at all, and it doesn't make sense to have a left back and not play him. But the thing that's baffling about it is if he's got no intention of playing him, why hasn't he sold him? So he's at the club for some reason. So he had a chance to get rid.
But I think it is that. I think if we had Martson, he would have sold him.
Yeah, I agree. It's the change of decision, though. Like,
but the thing with Taylor,
go on.
Yeah, is that. But the thing with Taylor, and it boils back to what you were saying, Nathan, what we've all said, is experience on the pitch. So yes, he can't do the sexy marks in football, but he's intelligent enough to know he can't do that, and he will release the ball. That's all we wanted. That's the job done tonight.
You were quiet for 15 minutes.
He's intelligent enough to know that
Yeah.
his limitations, right? So he'll get the ball and he'll do his job of throwing it up or closing down or whatever, and then give it to someone who can do that.
Yeah.
And that goes to my point about Cork. He knows he can't do it, but he knows when to give it to someone who can, and that's why we need these lads back in.
I think to round the whole point off what Joe asked originally, that question about the defence is like the knock-on effect it has when you put Roberts out of position and then you put Alderkirk, who's a centre off. Granted, he's done an all right job at his position out wide, but Alderkirk is a very, very good ball-playing centre off. But putting him out there, so we've got both of our inverted fullbacks out of position. I don't buy that inverted fullbacks. It's not working for us at the minute. It's not working. It will work at some point, but not yet. But I think we just need to rename this fucking episode. Just play Charlie Taylor. It is like we keep saying. It's gonna look crap. It's not gonna be sexy, but he'll just do his job. And it'll keep us in them games, even if it's for 15 minutes longer. It might just give us chance to maybe go and get if we have players in position on Saturday, it might have allowed us to maybe go and nick a second. We nick a second in that first half against Tottenham, it changes the whole fucking dynamic. It makes Tottenham have to really step on us. Whereas at 2-0, we can sit off and them experienced players can dig in, get their feet stuck in, and see the game out. But because we're having to chase a game, we get caught out way too many times and give them every opportunity to score 5, if not 10.
Yeah, we are hitting the hour mark now, so we will start. Not wrapping it up yet. Don't go anywhere.
Let's keep going.
No, I do want to talk about some more things. So we are going to be here for a little bit longer. But before I do, just want to give a quick shout out to Harry Townley and Austin Townley, who are both watching. Good to see you, lads. Thank you for watching. But I do want to talk about some positives. I know there's been a very
See you
lot
later,
of.
Sam. You can step out now if you want.
Yeah, Sam, you can leave me. But before I do, is there anything else you lads want to get off your chest about that performance, the first 3 games, or do you think we've covered everything? So we all want. I know you do, Sam. Hold on a second. So we all want Muric back in. I think the majority of us want Brownhill back in. Yeah. I want Cork back in. I don't understand why he's suddenly now this bad footballer again. He breaks it down. He helps us break it down. Yeah. I think the majority of us want Charlie Taylor back in because even those of us that did think it didn't work at the start, think, well, nothing else works. Try actually playing, as Sam put it perfectly, a left back at left back. That might actually work. He might not be the perfect left back for this system. That left back wanted to sit on a bench instead. Fine. Well, we have another left back here who did well under Dyche. So we've covered all that. But there's one more thing. Sam, you put your hand up. We all know you're going to have a rant. I'll just come to you, Sam. What is it you want to talk about before we do move on to the positives? And yes, Claret won. There was a couple of positives.
It's a very quick one. So it's based on what we were saying about Charlie Taylor, obviously playing a left back at left back. But it's more about the individual. So if you go back over Charlie Taylor's career and you look back at his Burnley resume, he's been the first choice left back under Dyche. Granted, he's only one manager, but he was the starting left back for years, and we never, ever, ever looked to replace him. We bought Eric Peters as a backup to him. We've all had this conversation about Cork coming into this midfield. We've talked about beautiful football and the new tactics and the new style of play. All the conversations you see on Twitter, and every time that we talk about these situations, we talk about Jack Cork coming back into that midfield will shore everything up, and it's perfect, and it would be brilliant to have him there. And then Brownell's the next one, and then as soon as he gets to Charlie, there's a 50-50, like, oh, will it work, will it not? You put Jack Cork and sexy football and good football, positive attacking football together, you're a weirdo, because they don't work together.
No.
But Jack Cork in that system can still work. They don't, if you put them together, they don't gel. Yeah. But it will work. It's the same with Charlie. You've put him in that situation. You don't need a technically good footballer all the time. No. You just need to put a left back at left back.
This is a mad. I'll quickly do it in a minute and then we'll move on. But Rodri at City, he's not he's not a technically gifted footballer. Like, he's not going to go amazing run, skill step or whatever. He is just fundamental. He does his job in midfield and lets everybody else do their jobs creatively and fluidly. But he's that linchpin at that City team. I'm not, obviously someone will probably go, oh, he's comparing Jack Cork to Robert. I'm not doing that whatsoever. I'm talking about positionally and type of experience and players. He'll know his position is to win the ball back, keep midfielders pulling in. If a midfielder goes beyond me, I step in and do my job and fill in for him. We don't have anybody doing that at the minute. That midfield is just running around doing whatever it wants. Sander Berg's in fucking corner flag, trying to whip crosses in. You know what I mean? Like, what's he doing? He's a midfielder. He needs to be helping Cullen, because Cullen were running around like he looked lost. He didn't have his mate Cork in there helping him out. Like when Cullen went on them little runs to play in like the sort of false 10 role, Cork helped him out. He filled in for him. Robert stepped in and filled in for him. That whole thing's disjointed and not working. Fundamentally, play players in their right positions, and they will do the right job for you.
Agreed.
Yeah. I do think, Sam, you made a good point earlier. I think there's become this arrogance now. And the reason why I bring that back up again, I know you said it a while ago, is I've just been on Twitter as you two were chatting, and I've just seen some people putting their suggested teams up for Forest. And somebody, and I'm not going to mention any names, and the person, if they do watch, they'll notice about them, but somebody suggested playing Josh Brownhill at left back instead of Charlie Taylor. Like this, I don't understand. Like, why are we suddenly now putting square pegs in round holes and thinking it's a normal scenario? Because the manager's done it for the last 3 games. But positives. That's it. I'm done. That's it. No, I'm joking. Coley O'Shaw, he's 18 years old. I've had a season ticket longer than that kid has been on this earth. Probably longer than his dad. He's so good, man. That kid is so good. Like, yes, he's rough around the edges. Yes, his decision-making can be better, but that will come with age and experience. He was the only player who wanted the ball at his feet and wanted to drag us up the pitch. He wanted to run at people. He wanted to start creating things and got an assist after 4 minutes because of it. And then he was doing some great... We're playing against Tottenham, a very good side. And he's running rings around him at certain points. Yes, it wasn't enough for the balance of the game. Not criticising him, but he was fantastic. So he's a big positive. And Foster, I think we mentioned him earlier a little bit earlier, but just going into a little bit more depth about him. That's 2 goals so far in the Premier League. I think he's on course to get 15 potentially this season. I know some people say 15, 20. I think it's probably going to be more towards the earlier numbers in that. But they've both done well this season, and they're my main 2 positives. Have you guys got any or want to add to what I've mentioned?
I think
Foster for me is outstanding. He got loads of grief last year, and I know Vinny's got a few things wrong this season, but he was right about him, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. The front 3, the forward 3, I'm Dooney, Foster, and Coley O'Shaw. They just look.
Yeah, I'm Dooney with look class against City as well. To be fair, just a little bit quieter yesterday.
Yeah, they just look dangerous. They do look dangerous all the time, even against very good back lines. And I am genuinely excited to play like in Everton or like a Sheffield United. I'm looking forward to seeing them play against something like that, because they do look a threat going forward. It's like I said, it all adds up that we've not actually spoke about the forward line until now. Like we're an hour in now, and we've.
I think we're all happy with it, aren't we?
The problem isn't going forward; it's coming back. Yeah. That's the problem. Like going forward, like I said earlier, we have got some of the most exciting attacking footballers I've ever seen at this football club, and they were shining light again. Like Coley O'Shaw's, he's a joke, man, at that age. And to add Trezor into that mix, we've got Zaruri coming back. Like there's even more and more options going into the next couple of games, and yeah, I think. It's just good to see Laos keep scoring. Like that's so important for a striker. If you've got a striker that's playing in games where we're getting battered in and he's not scoring, it's not good. Like at least he can walk away every game and go, I've done my bit. I've put my name on the score sheet, and that means a lot going forward. You don't want to. We don't want to end up playing these easy games, as it were, with a striker that still hasn't scored yet. And he's done that. He's ticked it off. He's got 2 now, 2 in 2. He's on. He's on form, as it were. So
yeah. Sam, I know you don't like positives.
Last year was only positive. It's just right now there isn't much. But no, I think positive-wise, you know what? Bit of a curveball, but I think there's positives to every single player's individual performances. Like, Delcroix is comfortable on the ball. He's willing to pass the ball. He's willing to have the ball to feet. He's willing to try and play out from the back. So he deserves a shout because, he's 24. He's bought for £1 million from a league that he has no idea. He knows nothing about the Premier League, and he's been chucked in at centre half with 2 fullbacks playing, someone's Graham and somebody else. But we've got Foster. That's out of the way. 2 goals. That he's on course to do very, very well, and we do have to back that notion 100%. That needs the praise it deserves, because not only is he scoring the goals and getting in the right position, but he's also busting a gut for the team, and it's what you want to see. Yeah. Again, like, even going on Koleosho, Luca's exactly the type of player and the exact type of profile that we wanted to see for a long time. Young, explosive, and somebody who's really going to try and take the game by the scruff of the neck. I think for me, it is a shame that we brought in Trezor. As stupid as that sounds, now I've said it. Bringing in Trezor is an extremely good bit of business. He's the player that, when we've all looked at, he's the player that should come into the system and set us up, tenfold in that attacking setup. And having someone put a comment, Koleosho and Benson coming off the bench is brilliant. It's to go back to the other side of it is, you've still got Odobert, who we haven't seen enough of yet. We don't know what he can bring to the team. So this attacking side of the game is a positive, because as press is good in the attacking quartet of the pitch, it is. So that's another positive. But I do feel like I'm clutching at straws a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's I forgot about Odobert and I forgot about Trezor. Like, I just wish we had these
as well to come in.
Yeah, exactly. I just wish we had these people to come in that we don't know much about yet at the back. So then we're thinking, oh well, maybe this guy would solve it. Because I don't think anything's going to solve it other than changing the system a little bit, or changing the way we play, or just playing a deeper line, or playing a left back at left back. We're blessed with forward players, but that's not where the problem is. And someone put a comment in, and I know it's the most basic comment in the world, like the most basic thing, not the most basic comment. I've said that wrong, but the most basic bit of information is what I'm trying to say. The problem is, no matter how well these forwards perform, we won't win any games conceding this amount of goals. No, unless we're Grimsby and we score 6 when the opposite team scored 5. But who was the only team to lose on that when they scored that? And obviously, of course, it was us. But yeah, I don't know. I just want us to be better at the back. But try playing a left back at left back. Try playing Gorky, because Jack Cork, that means
Gorky.
And then maybe we would look a little bit less exposed, because that's the worrying thing. We didn't just concede 5 good goals. We conceded 5 silly mistakes and got cut open. Sorry, Neil, go on.
Sorry, try playing some of the lads who've got us into that league and know the system a chance in that league, in that system, and see how we get on.
We've got Ramsey as well. I forgot about him.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
we've got all these signings and not one of
all these players going forward. All these players going
I
forward.
think the reason why it's so hard to zone in on these attacking players, it's not even because we've signed so many. Like, it's because the glaring issue is at the back.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about what makes us better and what is the negative side of it and what went wrong at the weekend, you don't go to the attackers. You don't go to attacking substitutions and not being able to create enough. Like, you go to the fact that we gave ourselves more than a mountain to climb. We gave ourselves Mount Everest to climb. We literally gave ourselves the hardest possible situation to come back from, where heads dropped after half time. We went 5-1 down in like 75 minutes. And then Brownhill plucked us something on the 93rd minute that made it look a little bit better than it was. But even then, they could have scored more. It literally could have been 7-2. But the attacking side of it isn't the issue.
No.
Bringing Trezor in and Ramsey in and players like that, like they're not the ones that we're worried about. They will be good for Burnley. I have absolute faith that Trezor is going to be class, and Ramsey will come in and play a feature for us for a long time. But when you've got glaring issues at the back, it's so hard to remember to give a shout out to them, because it's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people will have a go because the issues have been our issues and not because we've just played good opposition. But we'll have a better gauge of where we are at when we played the likes of Forest. And I don't mean anything. I know there's a Forest fan in the chat, but I'm only mentioning Forest because we're playing them soon. Forest, Bournemouth, Everton, Wolves, Luton, Sheffield United. I don't know about you guys. I still think we'll be okay, and I still think we'll survive. I don't think there's going to be this push for the top half of the bottom half anymore. But I think we're better than Luton. I think we're better than Sheffield United. I think we're better than Everton. I think we're better than Wolves. I think we'll be all right. We needed that Luton game. If we'd have played that Luton game and got a win, how much better would we have felt? All right, I'm not saying we would have won because we have been pretty poor, but we might have had a point and we might have felt better. Everton have played Fulham at home, lost against them. Wolves at home, lost against them. Sheffield United away should have lost against them, but a ball hit Pickford in the face in the last minute,
and he claimed it as a save.
Yeah, and then started winking at the camera. It's like, no, mate, you just got hit in the face. We've had not a better start than them. That's not the word. A less worrying start than them in terms of the results, I think. But when, like Sam put it perfectly, I mean, you've got such glaring issues at the back. That's where the worry comes from. But don't know about you guys. Feel free to answer. I do still think we'll stay up just because of how dross some of the other teams are. And I kind of think we will eventually shore ourselves up a little bit and we won't be this kamikaze at the back for the full season.
Yeah, no, we won't. I was going to say that we will learn. The issue we've got is that we're learning against these top teams, and they will learn. And I don't know, maybe we'll be sitting here in a month's time and be proven wrong that they've learned against. They've been battled against Haaland, battled against Watkins, and all of a sudden we come up against Everton, we come up against Sheffield United, and we are mint because they've learned from that experience. That might be what it is, but I think we've been unlucky with the teams we've played. Yeah. I think had we had a start of Sheffield United, of Luton, of Bournemouth, of Fulham, we might have seen these mistakes but not been punished. Yeah, we've just been a little bit unlucky with who we've played, I think.
Yeah, I think, like I say, we've come up against, like I said at the start, 3 of the better teams in this league at this current time, I think, performance-wise, and we'll have to come back, I think, in mid-October and look back at the results and see where we are then. If we're still in a very similar predicament by mid-October, I will be very concerned about our future in this league. Really, really will, because by then it could be a long old season ahead of us if we're still making the same mistakes, not picking up points after we've played. End of October, we should have had at least a few winnable games, but it's still 3 games in. It's frustrating to watch, because we haven't got a point on the board yet. We've conceded you've got a goal difference, -8, whatever, but it's just a patience. I think it will click. Something will click. I know we've gone on a big rant and defensive. We're just highlighting what we think is the issue. I'm pretty confident Company he already knows the issue, and he's just trying to get it into his players now, and he's trying to sort it. I believe in Company because he's not giving me another reason not to just yet. If we're still doing this, if we're still talking about playing fucking Charlie Taylor in November, then I'll start worrying about what's going on. But until then, it's still early doors, plenty of time. Up the Clarets, I think.
Yeah, problem is though, I know I've just said I still think we'll stay up, but problem is it don't get much easier, does it? So after Forest, which again is a game we're looking at for potential of getting some points. Again, no offence to the Forest fan, they had a great result yesterday. But after that, we've got Manchester United at home. Then they're not great, but yeah, well, I hope so. I'm not saying nothing to suggest that we will. Then it's Newcastle away. That could be another 5, 6, 7. Then Chelsea at home. They're good. But then we've got a couple of more winnable games. Brentford away, Bournemouth away. Shame they're both away. Then it's Palace at home, Arsenal away, then West Ham. Then now I'm into December, lads. This is how far I'm getting along for a decent run of fixtures. Then it's Sheffield United, then Wolves, then Brighton, then Everton at home, Fulham away, Liverpool on Boxing Day, and then Villa. So it's just there's no run of not like how we've just had a run of tough fixtures. There's no run of easy games. There's a couple of not easy but easier games, and then it's Arsenal. Yeah. So it's we've just got to get used to it, and we've just got to start winning games. And I've left that comment on screen far too long because I was looking at fixtures. So apologies, Neil, covering off your face. But we do need to start winning games. we do need to start. We just need to get the problem sorted. Simple. It sounds simple, and it's not simple. But we just need to get
play
the problem
Charlie Taylor.
Play left back at left back.
The issue that we have with those fixtures, though, is we get to October time, November time, and we could be not so far adrift, but like you've got confidence rock bottom. You're getting beat week in, week out against good teams, and you can't find a solution because you can't really gauge where you're at when you play the best teams. Like we've done this for years. We've been over this under the Dyche era and years before that. When you play big clubs, you're not ever going into games expecting to win. but you still want a better performance. If we're still not winning games and not getting good performances, that's when I think you'll start to see a shift change in a large majority of the fan base going towards a kind of, it can click later on down the line and we can play the Wolves, the Palaces and stuff like that. But we've given ourselves a mountain to climb with first 10, 11 games. We've got 3, 6 points, 7 points maybe. And that's tough going. The only disclaimer that I would say is we are 3 games in.
Yeah.
Like, we are having this whole discussion. We are 3 games in. We could do a madness and beat Forest, Chelsea, and Man United back to back. We don't know. Like, that could all happen. So 3 games in, I'm not like dramatically worried about where we'll finish. We've come on a podcast to talk about an individual game and individual performance, and this individual performance was dross.
Like between us and 15th, well, between us and 14th is still only 3 points. Like it's so early doors. Like one win can just change the whole outlook on everything.
And we have a game in hand.
And we have the game in hand. Like
which is against Luton.
Which is
against Luton. No disrespect to Luton.
No, we just need that one win, and everything just gets shaken off the cobwebs.
How much different would it have looked, like I said then, if we'd have played the 4 games but got 3 points against Luton? Would have been fine. Yeah, fine. We've lost against these 3 good sides, but we've beaten a team around us. That's what I mean. It's difficult to gauge where we're at the minute. Yeah. So as Sam just said,
that's why it's the performances, mate. It's the performances, not the results that I'm concerned with.
I agree. It's not even necessary. It's the defensive performance for me, because we have looked good going forward, especially in the last game. But we're going to start looking to wrap it up. Anything else you wanna jump in on, lads? Quickly jump in now and discuss it. Sam, Match wanna go on a rant again? I don't know, but we are going to start looking at wrap it up. It is 1 hour 17 minutes. It's probably the longest one I've done for a while. This.
Well, quickly, we've not had a chance, but we'll talk about the little cup game against Salford. I think that's a little bit excited about that, actually.
That'll be lovely.
Might get a win.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Might get a win. Nice ground to go to. Tick that one off for a lot of fans, won't it?
Yeah, I'm hoping to get to it.
Planning on.
Are they going to let Alan Pace do the commentary, though? To let Gary Neville comment on his team, so let Alan Pace do it as well.
That'd be good, that, wouldn't it? The owners commentating. Pacey and Neville on there,
That would be good. It'd be like, remember Fancam back in day? Probably showing me age again. Neil will remember it.
He'd have fun celebrating with the mates, wouldn't the right? So good.
Get Ornicam on. Ornicam. Neville and Dom.
Where's that chap gone that commented right at the beginning of the video? Anyways, he just dropped his grenade and scarped.
He dropped his grenade. I confronted him and he backed down. They always back down when Redmond comes out.
That same chap actually commented on every single video we uploaded this weekend and absolutely just went in on Alan Pace and Vincent coming in at. So he's either really deluded and needs to probably not watch football, or he's a Rovers fan. So take your pick. Both the same thing.
What's the word? And it's not racist, but what is the word for somebody who doesn't like somebody?
That's not a great way to start a sentence.
No, it's not. I thought that when I said it. But what's the word?
He's just racist. That's all he is.
Is it xenophobe?
Yeah, he's a xenophobe. That's what it is. He don't like him. He doesn't like Alan because he's not from Burnley. He's not a little Englander from Burnley.
I've just done a quick
who's
check.
made his money in vans. And selling vans on the market.
Just as a disclaimer, thank you. Just as a disclaimer, I never said anything about anybody being.
I'm saying it. That guy is one.
I also apologise for calling people weirdos as well. I was
that is peak, Sam. And the best thing about your rant today, Sam, was you started off on one, you went, not thinking, and you started, you went, listen. And then you went, yes. Love it when he says listen. He even says it, we've got a WhatsApp group. He even says it in the WhatsApp group. He's like, listen. And I'm like, yes, he's off.
Right.
He's off.
When it's a serious issue, right, it gets a listen. When we're talking waffle, it just gets no. When it
the best thing,
it gets a listen.
The best thing about the group chat listen, though, is that it's just listen on its own.
Yeah.
And then the rest follows.
He's here. Vincent is here.
We will win the next game.
I believe he's watching it in Barnfield in his office. Shout out, Vincent. You want to come?
I'll just check. I'll have a look out window.
Please do.
Lights are on.
Lights are on at Barnfield. There you go. Thank you for coming on the channel, VK.
Play Charlie Taylor.
That. Yeah, play Charlie Taylor at left back. It's a radical idea. Play a left back at left back. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you, lads, for coming on. We do apologise that it was more of a therapy session than a full-time show, but I did put that disclaimer on Twitter this morning that it would be more of a therapy session. I hope the therapy session has helped. I felt a bit miserable for the first hour of that. I'm not going to lie, but then later on, we've had a bit of a laugh and I enjoyed it. Basically, calling someone a xenophobe made me smile. Giving someone abuse has made me smile. But thank you, Nathan, for coming on. Thank you, Neil, for coming on. Thank you, Sam, for coming on. You can find everybody on Twitter in the usual places at Nathan J. Rog, at Northeast Claret, now it is.
Yes,
and
mate.
at Clarets Roundup as Sam. You can follow me at Joe Tom Red, or just follow me. In fact, just follow me on Turfcast. I'd rather you just follow the brand and help the brand of Turfcast grow, because we are doing well. We've got sponsorships, we've got new podcast providers. All of that will come out soon. But thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for listening, if you are listening. And if you have just joined, because there is still 96 people watching at this moment in time, if you have just joined and you want to go back and watch the bits that you missed, as soon as I end this broadcast, it does stay on YouTube for you to watch at your leisure. Or if you'd rather think, it's getting a bit late, it's 20 to 10, I'm not going to spend another hour and a half watching a YouTube video. You're mad, Joe. When you're driving to work tomorrow, download the podcast will be there ready. But thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for listening if you're listening on the podcast. And we'll see you before the Forest game. In fact, no, I'll ring Nathan tomorrow and we'll discuss something we're going to do during the international. I'm not going to leave a 2-week gap, actually. That's definitely not going to happen. But thank you everybody for watching, listening. I'll see you next time.